What if one tiny strip of water could shake the entire global economy in a single day? That's exactly what's happening right now. There is a narrow passage in the world where everything depends on constant movement, and if it stops, the impact spreads everywhere instantly. This place is called the Strait of Hormuz. It sits between Iran and Oman, connecting the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. Every single day, around 20 million barrels of oil pass through this narrow route. That's not a small share. It's merely 1/5 of all the oil used across the entire planet. Picture this clearly. Massive oil tankers, as large as skyscrapers, move through a space so tight it feels unreal. These ships carry fuel that powers cities, industries, and daily life. And yet, all of it depends on one narrow corridor. Here's the real concern. This area is not calm or secure. Warships patrol it constantly. Tankers have been stopped and seized. Insurance costs for ships passing through are extremely high. Governments plan around the risk of it being blocked. Because the truth is simple. The global economy doesn't just need oil. It needs oil to keep moving without interruption. To understand the problem, you need to see how limited the situation really is. Think of the Persian Gulf as a huge storage space filled with oil. Around it are some of the biggest oil-producing countries in the world: Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. Together, they supply a large portion of global energy. But there is one major issue. This entire region has only one way out by sea: the Strait of Hormuz. Every tanker carrying oil must pass through this single route to reach the rest of the world. There is no alternative path. It's like a massive building with only one exit. No matter how many people or how much supply is inside, everything must go through that same door. This creates serious risk. These countries spend billions to produce oil and transport it. But every shipment depends on a narrow, politically sensitive passage. Even a small disruption can slow or stop traffic completely. Some solutions exist. Saudi Arabia built pipelines to the Red Sea. The UAE built pipelines to bypass the strait. But these can only carry a small portion of total supply. Most oil still depends on ships, and those ships still depend on Hormuz. Because of this risk, one idea keeps coming back again and again. What if ships didn't have to go through the Strait of Hormuz at all? What if there was another route? This is where the canal idea begins. Engineers and strategists have imagined building a massive canal through Oman. This canal would allow ships to move directly from the Persian Gulf to the open ocean, without touching the strait. On a map, it looks simple. If you look at the northern part of Oman, you'll see a narrow strip of land called the Musandam Peninsula. In some places, the distance between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman is surprisingly short, just a few dozen miles. The idea is straightforward. Cut a canal through that land. Let ships pass directly through. Avoid the choke point completely. At first glance, it feels like an obvious solution. You connect to bodies of water and remove a major risk. No military tension, no delays, no high insurance costs, just open access to global trade. That's why this idea keeps returning. Every time tensions rise in the region, people look at the map and ask the same question: why hasn't this been built yet? The answer becomes clear the moment you look beyond the map. The land in that region is not flat or easy to work with. The Musandam Peninsula is part of a harsh mountain range. These are not small hills. The area is filled with steep, rocky mountains that rise sharply from the ground. Some peaks reach over 2,000 meters high. The terrain is rough, dry, and extremely difficult to access. The rock itself is very hard and ancient. It has been shaped over millions of years and is not easy to cut through. This is not like digging a canal through soft soil or sand. Building a canal here would mean cutting through solid mountains. It would require massive explosions, heavy machinery, and years of constant work. And the location makes it even harder. The region has limited infrastructure. There are few roads, limited industrial support, and no large construction base nearby. Everything would need to be built from scratch. This turns a simple idea into a massive challenge. What looks easy on a flat map becomes extremely complex in reality. The project would not just be difficult, it would be one of the hardest engineering tasks ever attempted. Now consider the size of the ships that would use this canal. These are not small vessels. They are among the largest machines ever built. Oil tankers from the Persian Gulf can be hundreds of meters long, sometimes as long as 3 football fields. They carry enormous amounts of oil and sit very deep in the water. Because of this, the canal cannot be narrow or shallow. It must be wide enough for ships to pass safely, even in both directions. It must also be deep enough to handle their weight without risk. This means removing huge amounts of rock and earth. Entire sections of mountains would need to be cut away. The scale of construction would be enormous. To understand the cost, look at past projects. The Panama Canal expansion cost around $5 billion and took years to complete. And that project improved an existing canal in easier terrain. This new canal would start from zero in a much harder environment. Estimates suggest it could cost around $100 billion or even more. That is an extremely high price. And even after spending all that money, the biggest challenge still remains unsolved. The next challenge is not engineering, it's political. The land where this canal would be built belongs to Oman. This means no project can happen without full approval from the Omani government. And currently, there are no official plans to build such a canal. Oman has a different vision for this region. The Musandam Peninsula is known for its natural beauty, fishing communities, and tourism potential. The focus is on preserving the environment, not transforming it into a major industrial route. For the canal to happen, many countries would need to agree. Oman would need to support it fully. Neighboring countries would need to cooperate. Investors would need to provide huge funding. There would also need to be long-term security plans to protect the canal and keep it open at all times. Each of these steps is difficult on its own. Together, they become extremely complex. This is why the project has never moved forward. It's not just about building something. It's about global coordination, long-term trust, and massive financial commitment. And even if all of that is achieved, there is still one deeper problem left. Even if the canal is built, it does not fully solve the problem. It only shifts it. Right now, the world depends on the Strait of Hormuz. If the canal exists, the world would depend on that canal instead. The location changes, but the risk remains. In some ways, a canal is even more fragile. A natural strait is wide and open. It is harder to block completely. A canal, on the other hand, is narrow and controlled. If one large ship gets stuck, the entire route can be blocked. If there is damage or an attack, repairs could take weeks or months. Natural events also matter. The region has seismic activity. An earthquake could damage the canal and shut it down. This means the world would spend billions only to create another choke point. A different one, but still a single point of failure. This is the key issue. The problem is not just one location. The problem is dependence on narrow routes. Changing the route does not remove the risk. It simply moves it somewhere else. So why does this idea keep coming back? Because the risk it tries to solve is real. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a theoretical concern. Incidents happen there regularly. Ships are seized, damaged, or delayed. Military forces from different countries operate in the same area. Tension can rise quickly. When something happens, oil prices react almost immediately. Insurance costs go up. Shipping companies adjust routes. Markets respond within hours. This constant risk keeps the canal idea alive. It represents control away to reduce dependence on a single vulnerable point. But the reality is more complex. Geography still shapes how the world works. Oil, goods, and resources move through limited paths. Even today, global trade depends on a few narrow routes like Hormuz, the Suez Canal, and the Panama Canal. The canal idea is powerful because it feels like a solution. But in reality, it shows a deeper truth. The modern world is still heavily dependent on geography, and no single project, no matter how large, can completely remove that dependence.